And so now as we kind of prepare for this next match, you talked a lot about it being a tactics match rather than technical. How have you guys been preparing? I know it's still a little early, but how has the training camp started, or how's it been going?
Gordon's been training well. As always, Gordon's stomach issue goes up and down, and he also had some time off after ADCC where he went to Hawaii, which whenever you take a break, you have to pace your return. You can't just go straight back into hard training. But he's in full swing now and looking good. And we're getting to the point now where it's time to start making shifts to a training camp designed specifically for No Time Limit, which is always interesting. It can be a pretty stressful camp because, you know, how do you prepare for a match which could go on conceivably for 3, 4, 5 hours? So you can't do sparring rounds of 3, 4, 5 hours. So the question becomes, okay, well, what kind of sparring rounds do you do? And we'll repeat some of the elements that were in the previous camp and improve upon other parts we thought could have been done better. But I think Gordon came out with excellent tactics in the third match, and the question will be, what will Felipe be doing to nullify those tactics or improve upon them himself? And ultimately, I think it's going to come down to who's able to control work rate and control pace.
Can you tell me why you like the No Time Limit rule set, and why specifically this is such a good rule set for Gordon versus Felipe?
It's got a purity to it. When it comes to rule sets, the big question of who are you trying to entertain? And for the average fan, I think No Time Limit is probably a bit of a disaster, to be honest with you. Like, the action is very, very slow. And many of the people who watch, maybe even the majority, don't understand the importance of pacing and how if you come out too hard too early, it almost always works against you. And so the idea of watching a match that just goes on and on with not a lot of action, it's tough for a lot of people to watch. So in terms of average spectator, it's not the best rule set. But it does have one great virtue, and that's that if you're patient enough, you're going to get a result. It will be a definitive result. It will be a very pure result. In fact, it'll be the most pure result. There's no ambiguity. There's no appealing to, you know, the referee did this or the referee did that. It's just like two guys on a mat and they go until one quits. There's no more unambiguous result than that. So it has this purity to it. But it comes at the price that you need to be patient. And the question was always, will the audience be patient enough? Now, last match was 42 minutes. That's a long jiu-jitsu match. Most people, you know, most jiu-jitsu matches 10 to 15 minutes, and even like a 20-minute match feels long for most people. So, and you know, who's to say this one could go an hour and a half, 2 hours? It's quite possible. So it has the advantage of purity, but comes at the price of you're going to need some patience. And the question is, how many people are willing to do that? Now, this one is helped by the fact that the two athletes have a history. Everyone knows they don't like each other. There is some emotional content here, and that always helps an audience. There's also the chance that one or both of them might just come to a realization that if they push the pace early, they can wear the other guy out and get a fairly quick result. That's absolutely something that could happen. What is interesting about this is that both of them have proven in the past that they have the ability to finish the other. And if Felipe gets on someone's back, he can finish anyone in the world. If Gordon gets on someone's back, he can finish anyone in the world. So there's this sense in which everyone knows what they have to do. They're both damn good at doing it. And there's a sense there in which, okay, this is something worth waiting for. These are the two best out there. And we know there's going to be a result. The only question is, how long is it going to take? And that adds some drama to it. So I think this is one of the few times where a no time limit match makes sense. For most matches, I don't think it's the most exciting for the fans. I think most fans wouldn't put up with it. But in this case, there's so much contention as to who is the better of the two, that people want the purity of result. Okay, they don't want any referee interference. They don't want any rule set which screws up their assessment of who's just the better at jiu-jitsu. Like, if you lock them in a gym, who comes out of the room? Okay, and so I think for these two athletes, yes, the rule set makes sense. But for most athletes, no, it doesn't.